What's happening, fam? John here from AF Anime. We are back with another One Piece chapter review, this time for chapter 1057, which is titled The End. The End, of course, is speaking about Wano. I know this chapter came out a week ago. I apologize for my tardiness on covering it, as I've been a little bit under the weather. And on top of that, I also apologize if at any point throughout this video I sound congested, but the new chapter should be out within the next 24 hours, so I figured I can just drop these videos back to back. So before I get into this chapter's contents, if you haven't already, please be sure to hit that red subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you are already subscribed and have hit that red button, I thank you very much for your patronage. Now back with the chapter, the first thing that we get to review for this chapter is going to be the cover page, which continues the Germa storyline and emotionless excursion. Now when we take a look at this cover page, we can tell that Caesar Clown is putting an actual good amount of effort into attacking someone, although we can't really tell who he's targeting in this picture in particular. Now I'll be honest with you guys, I've already read the scans for tomorrow's chapter, so I know who he's attacking, but we'll just say for the moment that his options are between the Germa siblings and the Charlotte siblings. Those siblings in particular being the twins Oven and Katakuri. So speculation aside, when it comes to this cover page, there isn't a whole lot of detail in the work here. The artwork is a little bit lackluster in comparison to the previous cover pages, but for the most part it does have an interesting angle where we see that Caesar Clown is getting himself involved in this Germa storyline, and given his science background, I could totally see him going home or going back with the Germa siblings to work with Judge on something. In any case, I won't waste your time or attention on the cover page any further. Let's go ahead and talk about 1057, The End. This chapter is a bit different from the previous reviews, where we don't have a whole lot to talk about in terms of what goes down, as it'll just be me regurgitating the panels that we see in the chapter itself, but the meaning of the chapter is very important to how One Piece operates, so I will be talking more about this as an end to Wano in general. And speaking of ends, we all know the formulaic process when it comes to Oda wrapping up an arc where the Straw Hats are victorious in saving a nation. There typically is a tearful and or emotional send-off as the Straw Hats continue their journey. This chapter is no different, but it is a little bit more final in terms of us leaving Wano and not coming back to this location for quite some time. As we all know, each island in One Piece typically has its own theme, its own motif, and its own kind of framing system of how the arc itself is presented to us, the weekly manga reader. But with Wano, it's been kind of in this kabuki act slash musical play kind of deal, and this chapter is no different. Now when it comes to this chapter's beginning, it starts off with a kind of poetic opening, and I believe that this is basically the new lore for the land of Wano, where they recite the accomplishments of the vassals of Kozuki Oden's children, Momonosuke and Hiyori, as well as the Straw Hats who helped them out. And while this play does kind of give us a good amount of exposition and a good amount of framing for what went down in Wano, it also gives us a reminder of how these people acted before we got into all the action heavy stuff. And what I mean by that is when we left the citizens of Wano for all of the events on Onigashima involving the fighters and competitors, we kind of took a backseat to the interactions with the actual civilians of Wano. I mean, because we've been spending so much time with the pirates, it's easy to forget that that's how these people were introduced, as being people who were almost a different era or a different time due to their isolation. So it's good to see Oda call back to that. I will say that in the chapter form, having it being only a handful of pages was a little bit, I don't know, shorthanded, but for the most part, when this is animated into an actual episode, maybe even a full episode dedicated to this one chapter, I think that in terms of the anime, it will come across as much more impactful, much better looking, and much more of an emotional send-off. And I know I mentioned the Straw Hats a second ago, but for the most part, this is actually just a poem specifically talking about the people inside Wano itself. So it seems like Luffy got his wish to not let his heroicism be kind of touted around Wano, but this story being how the retainers and the Kozuki family were returned to their former glory. In fact, Kinemon and Denjiro aside, for the most part, this poem is talking about Hiyori and Momonosuke, two people who each had their own incredible character growth and accomplishments throughout this arc. Now, when it comes to Hiyori's moment to shine in this chapter, it gives us a flashback of Orochi's death, showing that after Denjiro cut him, he was still engaging in some trash talk about cursing the land of Wano before Hiyori got her moment to shine by stating that Kurozumi was born to burn. Of course, that is a callback to the last lines of Oden, which is that Oden was born to boil. So she creates a new catchphrase at the end of this arc, and also is responsible for playing the shamisen and giving it some tunes. So it seems like Hiyori is probably going to be an even more popular figurehead than Momonosuke himself. And then we have Momonosuke's representation throughout this chapter, and for the most part, it's just about his relationship with Luffy and the journey he's been on with them. And for that purpose, we get about 2 whole pages of flashbacks between Luffy and Momonosuke on their journey meeting, leading all the way up until Kaido's defeat. And as a weekly manga reader, this is a bit annoying because it's just recapping stuff we already know, but as I said earlier in this video, this is a moment that'll probably translate 20 times better once it's animated. I mean, we get the flashback, and then we get this epic moment of Momonosuke catching up with the Straw Hats before they depart, and then as he tackles Luffy with Yamato's help, he reveals the fact that he is still an 8-year-old on the inside and still values very much the journey and the experiences that he's had with the Straw Hat Pirates. So we got this touching send-off between Luffy and Momonosuke, with Momonosuke begging Luffy to stay with him forever, but at the same time he knows that there is a scary future ahead and it's something he has to prepare for. So in preparation for his departure, Luffy had Usopp craft up a giant Straw Hat flag, which Momonosuke is going to put somewhere in Wano. I don't believe we saw it in this chapter, and maybe we'll see it at some point in the near future, but this is something similar to marking his territory, so that way people know that the Straw Hat Pirates will come to the aid of Wano if need be. So when it comes to Momonosuke's presence and role in this chapter, it was probably more entertaining for me at least than Hiyori's, but then again, we got to recap everything that led him up to the moment he's at currently. And given the fact that he has spent so much time with Luffy and the other Straw Hats, it's probably more fitting for him to get that kind of shine throughout this chapter rather than Hiyori. And it also makes more sense for him to be the personal recipient of the Straw Hat flag. Now, this interaction between Luffy and Momonosuke is wrapped up with Luffy setting sail and also declaring that if Momonosuke, Yamato, or Kinemon all have any desire to set sail to the sea, that they have open spots on the ship waiting for them. Not too differently from the same kind of official/unofficial membership that Princess Vivi was extended. So this typical emotional send-off ends with Momonosuke bowing to Luffy and thanking him for everything, as well as considering his Straw Hat invitation, saying that he cannot be a weakling upon joining their ship. We get Momonosuke ending his presence within this chapter by stating that he will surpass his father, Kozuki Oden. So in general, when it comes to this chapter, we have great stuff from all parties involved. As I said before, when it comes to these arc send-offs, they typically tend to be a bit formulaic, and this one's really no different, but we do get the entire aspect or the approach of a kabuki theater that Wano has kind of been touching on, and we get the official ending panel of this entire arc in a similar fashion to a kabuki theater ending. So with that, it is the end of an arc. We have been in Wano for nearly 5 years now, and it has finally come to an end with this chapter. The last 2 pages in particular really selling it home. Now, if I had to give this chapter an overall rating, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Typically, I rate my chapters based on their artwork, their story, and their hype. The end of an arc is a little bit different, however. I do find it entertaining. I find it to be very good, a little bit emotional, a little bit of heartfelt, but for the most part, it is very formulaic to what we've seen so far. Not too much better or too much worse in my opinion. I will say, however, though, I do enjoy the send-off or the departure that we get from the Straw Hat Pirates, the Heart Pirates, and the Kid Pirates, as I can't help but feel that going forward, we're going to be seeing a lot more of Kid and Law. Considering that we've only got a handful of years left in the story of One Piece, the path to Raftail is going to be very interlaced with these 3 pirate crews and possibly even Shanks as well. So there you have it. That's going to do it for my review of chapter 1057 of One Piece, a great send-off to an otherwise amazing arc. But don't be shy. Feel free to hit up the comment section down below with your thoughts or opinions on this chapter or Wano in general. Let me know if you liked or disliked it. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. If you haven't already, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. I would greatly appreciate that. If you guys wanted to see more One Piece related content, I have multiple reviews that I've done on this channel, more reviews incoming tomorrow and in the future. I also cover Dragon Ball, anime, and manga in general. If there's anything you want to see, just go ahead and check out my videos. I'm sure you'll find something that you can watch. Once again, I appreciate you watching it if you made it all the way through this video. My name is John, and I'll catch you in the next one.